Mr. President, everyone was glued to screen following your meeting with President Trump. How do you assess the outcome of this meeting? It's no secret that in Poland there was quite a harsh criticism of the American president, and its mass media was quite hostile towards it. And what about the supposed intervention of Russia into the US elections? Did you make peace?
The US president did raise the question regarding this issue, and we did talk about it. This was not just a single issue. We spoke at length about these issues. You are aware of our position. I reiterated it. There is no reason to believe that Russia meddled in US elections. But what is important here is that we have agreed that the situation of uncertainty, especially going forward, we should avoid this kind of situation in these matters. This is what I said at our last session. This is directly related to cyberspace, internet, resources, and so on. We have agreed with the US president that we will set up a working group and we'll work together on cybersecurity. We will make sure that international rules are maintained. We need to prevent meddling into other countries' affairs. Of course, primarily we're talking about Russia and the United States here. We believe that if we are able to set up this mechanism, and I have no reason to doubt it, there will be no more speculation on this subject. And you also asked about our personal relationship. I think we were able to establish a relationship. I don't know how it will sound, but let me just tell you what I really think. The Trump you see on TV is very different from Trump, the real person. He is very specific. He is able to understand what you tell him. He analyzes your words pretty quickly, and he is able to respond. He answers your questions, or he responds to whatever may come up in the course of discussion. So I think if we keep going like that, if we keep building our relationship the way we did yesterday, there is every reason to believe that we will be able to restore, at least partially, the level of interaction that we need.
I represent CBS, and my question is that, to follow up on your response, when you denied Russian intervention into the American election, did President Trump agree with your position? Did he accept this position?
Well, what he did is he asked a lot of questions about this. And I responded to all those questions as much as I could. So I think that he did accept what I said, but you have to ask him what he thinks about all this.
Not speaking about G20, but a question on domestic policy. What's your attitude to Mr. Navalny and his activity? And when do you...
Well, I think we can have a dialogue, especially at the presidential level, at the government level. We can only talk to people who have a constructive agenda, even if they're critical. But if it's a person who only wants to attract attention to himself, I'm not interested in this kind of dialogue. Next question.
We spoke about supposed Russian intervention into the election, but there will be elections in Germany. Here in Germany, there's going to be election. Is Russia planning to intervene in these elections? And did you notify Angela Merkel about how you're going to do it? Maybe you can tell me?
It's a provocative question you're asking. Well, like I told you, we never meddled in the US election. Why should we meddle in Germany? We have very good relations with Germany. This is our #1 trade partner at a national level in Europe, one of our biggest trade partners worldwide, and we have some huge joint projects that we support. For example, Nord Stream 2, there's a lot of speculation and myths related to this project. But in any case, it's very obvious that this project will benefit the European economy and the Germany's economy, because Germany has abandoned nuclear energy, as you know. So why should we meddle in Germany's elections, Germany's politics? If you look at the media, at the German media, I mean, or at the European, French media, what they do is they meddle in our affairs all the time, but we are confident. That's why this doesn't bother us.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the chance to ask you questions from our TV company. What we wanted to ask is your meeting with President Trump. My colleague already asked it, but we still figured we wanted to ask that we should ask President Trump what happened.
You have to ask him what he thinks about this. You said what happened. Nothing happened. We did not meddle.
But unfortunately, the White House does not release any information.
Okay, we'll talk to the White House. We'll tell them to fix that.
But could you perhaps share what President Trump told you when you told him that you did not intervene into the election?
Well, he started asking all sorts of questions. He was interested in particular details. So I answered his questions in as much detail as I was able to. I told him about my conversations with the previous administration on the issue, including my conversations with President Obama. But, of course, I don't think I can share the details of my conversations with President Obama. You don't do this generally, and it would be improper for me to tell you in detail what we talked about with President Trump. He asked a question, I responded to this question. He asked a few more questions, and I gave him my answers, and I think he was satisfied with my answers.
My colleagues already mentioned Trump's words in Warsaw, and there was also his statement of delivering liquid gas to Poland and Europe. How do you assess this statement, especially in the context of the Nord Stream project? Will there be more tensions because of it?
I think this is an extremely positive development because healthy competition benefits everybody. We always support open market and healthy competition. The U.S. President spoke yesterday at the session and said that the U.S. wants to have honest and fair competition. And actually, when I spoke, I supported him. I agreed with that. We are quite happy with it. Today, if this is what they do, if we have open and fair competition, if it's not biased, if it's not politicized, and if they don't use any political instruments, we would be quite happy with that, because as of today, and this is very obvious, the cost of production and the delivery of liquefied natural gas from the US to Russia is much higher than Russian LNG. And then Russian LNG cannot compete with Russian natural gas delivered through our pipelines. So we clearly have a competitive advantage. And for us to preserve those advantages, our market partners should work actively for us to preserve this competitive advantage. So let's conclude now. The last question, please.
Russia Channel, after your first meeting with President Trump, do you think it will be possible to for the Russian-American relations to come out of that deep crisis it's been in?
Well, I really hope that we'll be able to do that. And I think we can see some positive signs even right now. Thank you very much.